Hi and welcome. My name is Kjell-Olov and I'm going to show you how I set up my Final Cut Pro 10 and my Apple Compressor for YouTube video editing. YouTube recommends a bunch of settings and I have them here on paper. And it's not obvious how you should set up your Final Cut Pro or your Apple Compressor to actually generate the recommended setting for YouTube. So I'm going to walk through how I interpreted this data and how it works for me. So here we are in Apple Compressor and I made two settings here. And you add new settings by going down here and click new setting. So I created these two. They are MPEG-4 settings, and the way I did that was I selected new settings down there, and then here in format I set MPEG-4, and here I selected the name, and then I press OK, and then I get a new setting here. So let's look at what settings I've been using. So I have my YouTube upload setting here, and here under General I left everything by default, and here under Video I use frame size automatic, which I interpret as it will be using the frame size from the video that I provide to Apple Compressor. So as long as I edit the video in the format I want it to be in, then Compressor will not change the frame size. The frame rate, the same thing, automatic. And there also I interpret this that Apple Compressor will then use the frame rate of the video fed to Apple Compressor. Next thing is I leave this as default, progressive, and of course progressive is what Apple recommends, so we leave it like that. And of course progressive means that each frame is complete. There are no interleaved frames, and that's how it should be. I also use the color space automatic. I haven't forced any specific color space, and that allows me, the automatic here I think allows me to actually define what color space the video I feed into Apple Compressor, and it will keep that. Here's an important one. The codec is H.264, also Apple recommended, and we should use the high profile, also default, didn't change this. Entropy mode CABAC, I don't know what this is, but it's also the recommended setting from YouTube. And keyframe interval, automatic, I didn't change this, so anything that comes in here is left untouched, I presume. Here I changed the data rate. So for this setting to be my YouTube upload setting, I want to restrict the size of the file. So I turn this down to 8 megabit per second or 8,000 kilobit per second. And that's the recommended size. YouTube says that for 1080p in SDR, 8 megabit per second, sorry, is the recommended. So it's kind of a sweet spot here. So I crank this down and tell Apple Compressor to force this setting. I leave this by default, allow frame reordering. I don't know what it is, and seems to work fine. I'm gonna leave this 360 metadata also untouched. I'm not going to use any 360 video material for now, so I don't touch that. And everything down here is also left as the default setting for the setting that Apple Compressor is using. And under audio we have set, we kept the stereo, and also for YouTube you are supposed to use stereo, so AAC settings, that's nothing you can change here. It comes with the, when you select MPEG settings here in Apple Compression, you automatically get AAC. I changed the sample rate to 48 kilohertz. By default it's 44.1, but YouTube recommends 48 kilohertz, so we will force this here. I don't know what effect this will have if I feed it with another bitrate, but I think for audio it's quite uncomplicated to change the sample rate. And then I cranked up the bitrate, the data rate for the audio. Now YouTube actually recommends that we use 384 for stereo bitrate audio, but Apple Compressor doesn't support that. It only supports up to 320 kilobits per second, and I suppose that should be okay. I mean, actually, if you want 8-bit depth at 48 kilohertz sampling rate, then you need 384 kilobits per second. So this isn't quite that, but on the other hand, AAC is a compressor format, so the audio is compressed and the bit depth per sample here then is more to handle transients, I would presume. So yeah, we cranked this up as much as we could. So that's my settings, and so let's go to Final Cut Pro, and here what you do is that you then now add the destination. I already done that, but I can show you just briefly how you do it. You drag this Apple Compressor here, and then you find your the settings we created here. You press OK, and then you get them in the list here. So now what we can do is that we can produce or render our video using this Apple Compressor, and yeah, you just fill in well, you don't do anything here, just press next, and then you get, I save my rendered MPEG files to my desktop, so that's by default here. So, well, there's not much more to say about this. I will continue to try this out and see how well it works, but for now it seems to work quite well. I have one generated here. So this is what I get. I have a 15 minutes video here, or roughly 16 minutes. And when I render it with the settings I just show you in Apple Compressor, I get a 1 gigabyte file. And we can see here it's 1920 times 1080, so it's 16 times 9, AAC H.264, color profile HD 111, which I presume is standard definition range, I think. Let's look in my notes here. SDR is standard dynamic range, and HDR is high definition range. So yeah, As a final note, I'm just going to show you that Apple Compressor actually supports high definition range. So you can go here to color space, and here you have these 2020 settings. So I don't know the difference, but all these are high definition range color profiles or color space. And in Final Cut Pro it's a little bit more complicated. You have to go to the library. So you set the color space for the whole library. So I click my library here, and then I can go here, and then you see here you can select for the library to use standard or wide gamut HDR for the color processing for the whole library. So I'm still on standard here, so I'm not going to change this for now. So yeah, that's all I wanted to show you, and I hope you found this information interesting. And if you disagree with any of my settings, you are free to comment in the video comments below. Thank you for watching.
If you like my videos, feel free to do nothing.
Just grab a cup of coffee
and enjoy.